Good morning and welcome to the Daily Light Devotion. I hope all of you have had a wonderful Sunday and looking forward to this week. Today I'm recording for the 16th of March and we are going to look at Deuteronomy 28 today, specifically in seeing Jesus. And in the New Testament we're going to look at Mark chapter 15 verses 27 to 47. Deuteronomy 28, Moses explains the blessings that will come if Israel obeys God's and the curses that will follow if they turn away from Him. This chapter shows how seriously God views obedience. It also reveals humanity's deep problem. People often fail to follow God's perfectly. Not often, but we can't keep all the laws because of the imperfection that comes from our heart and because of the separation with God. Ultimately, the chapter points us to Jesus Christ, who takes the curse of sin upon Himself and brings believers into the blessing of God. Deuteronomy 28 verses 1 to 14, Moses tells the people that if they are carefully obey the Lord, many blessings will follow. God promises blessings in every area of their lives. Blessing in the city and field, blessing of the children and crops, blessing of livestock and work, victory over enemies, and prosperity and favor among nations. God also promises that Israel will be the head and not the tail, meaning that they will live in honor and influence. These blessings reflect the life of God originally intended for His people. However, perfect obedience was required to receive them fully. Jesus Christ is the only person who perfectly obeyed God. Through Him, believers receive the true spiritual blessing of reconciliation with God. Jesus is the perfect, obedient Son who restores the blessing that humanity lost, and none of them were able to keep the complete law except for Jesus Christ. Right? Verses 15 to 68, Moses describes the curses that will come upon Israel if they reject God's commands that include disease and suffering, failed crops and poverty, defeat by enemies, fear and anxiety and instability, and exile from the land. These curses become increasingly severe, showing how destructive sin is. This section reveals, these verses reveal an important truth. Disobedience separates people from God's protection and blessing. Humanity repeatedly fails to obey God's law because of sin. All people have fallen under the curse. But the gospel reveals an incredible truth. Jesus takes the curse upon Himself so that the believers can receive God's blessing. On the cross, Jesus bears the judgment that humanity deserved. Right? Jesus takes that curse of sin so that believers can receive God's grace and mercy. So what are some of the key takeaways here? God desires obedience because it leads to life and blessing. Sin brings destruction and separation from God, and Jesus Christ rescues humanity from curse and restores God's blessing. In the New Testament, we look at Mark chapter 15, verses 27 to 47. The theme is crucified King and victory on the cross. What we see here in these verses is we witness the final moments of Jesus on the cross. He is crucified between criminals, mocked by people, and experiences deep suffering. Yet in this moment of darkness, God is accomplishing the greatest act of salvation in history. The passages reveal that the death of Jesus was not a defeat. It was a moment when the Savior paid the price for humanity's sin that came from Adam and Eve. In verses 27 to 32, Jesus is crucified between two criminals, fulfilling the prophecy that Messiah would be counted among sinners. People passing by mock Him. They shake their heads. They challenge Him to save Himself. Religious leaders ridicule Him, saying He saved others but cannot save Himself. The irony is powerful. Jesus could have come down from the cross, but He chose not to because His mission was to save humanity. Right? Jesus stays on the cross because His love for humanity is greater than his desire to escape suffering, right? And verses 33 to 39, at noon, darkness covers the land for 3 hours. The darkness symbolizes the weight of sin and judgment being placed upon Christ. So Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Then he breathes his last. At that moment, something extraordinary happens. The curtain of the temple is torn in two from top to bottom. Now, people say, the curtain of the temple was so thick, it was as thick as this hand side. If you see, that's the size of the curtain. And was torn into, no human could have torn it. It was only by the power of God, right? The curtain once separated people from the holy presence of God, right? And the torn curtain means that through Jesus' sacrifice, the barriers between God and humanity is removed. Even a Roman centurion watching the crucifixion recognizes the truth and declares, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Through the death of Jesus, humanity gains direct access to God. Verses 40 to 47, several faithful women watch from a distance, including Mary Magdalene and others who had followed Jesus during his ministry. After Jesus dies, a respected man named Joseph of Arimathea courageously asks Pilate for Jesus' body. He wraps the body in linen and places it in a tomb cut out of rock. A large stone is rolled over the entrance. And though everything appears finished, the burial prepares the way for the greatest miracle, that is the resurrection. What looked like an end was actually the beginning of victory over sin and death, right? So what are some of the key takeaways? Jesus endured mockery and suffering to accomplish God's plan. His death removed the barrier between God and humanity, and the cross reveals the depth of God's love for the world. Mark 15, these verses from 27 to 47 remind us that Jesus is willingly ready to give his life so that humanity could be forgiven and restored with God. The relationship could be restored. The cross, once a symbol of shame, became the place where salvation was accomplished. Because of Jesus' sacrifice, believers now have a direct access to God and the promises of new life through him. And that is what the gospel is all about. I hope this encourages you and gets you ready for your Monday, that you are saved. You are, it's not about going to heaven. Salvation means God pulling you out of a dire situation. How God pulled out the Israelites out of the Red Sea when the Red Sea was in front of them, and the strongest army in the world that time, the Egyptians were after them. So when God pulls us out, that is what salvation is. One of the definition of salvation is in Hebrew. So we are pulled out of our mess that was created by the original sin, that was by Adam and Eve, that was separation from God. But now we are united with God because of Jesus' sacrifice. God bless each one of you. Have a wonderful Monday. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.